In this lesson of Unit 1, this is Lesson 10, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to take a look at some rigid transformations. The learning target for this lesson is that you'll be able to draw a figure's image after the transformation. You'll be able to describe a sequence of steps or transformations necessary to take one figure onto another, and that you'll know that a rigid transformation results in congruent figures. Now, the assumption in this lesson is that you have seen transformations before in previous math classes, but I wanted to look at a couple of definitions before we get started so that you're not confused. So the first one is reflection. That is a transformation that does exactly what it sounds. It reflects, like looking in a mirror. So a rigid transformation called reflection would take a shape, say a stick figure, and it reflects it across a line, which might be a mirror, and it does so in a way that flips so that it's a mirror image. So a reflection of an image like the stick figure across this line might look like this. Translation is the next type of rigid transformation that we're going to look at, and it just means that you're moving a shape or figure a specific distance and a specific direction, and that's shown by this black line. So this red bean looking thing gets translated or moved up and over in this direction, this distance, point by point on the shape. And then the last one is rotation. Rotation again is just like it sounds. You take a figure and it gets rotated around a specific point, and you rotate it a specific direction and a specific angle. So this square gets rotated around a specific angle or about this specific point, which is called the center of rotation. So let's take a look at the lesson. So here's Lesson 10. Full disclosure, this curriculum is new to me, so I'm getting used to some of the features of this curriculum as much like you are. So it wasn't really designed to be a distance learning curriculum, but we're going to make it work. So as you look at the first part of this that asks you to notice and wonder, you're just looking at these drawings and figuring out, or just making observations. What do you notice about some of the shapes on here? What do you notice about the points? And really, what you're supposed to be looking at is similar shapes, maybe looking at this blue figure labeled S and how it relates to this green figure labeled M. Kind of looks like a shadow or a mirror image. So I can't really monitor whether or not you notice and wonder in these, but looking at these really helps get you ready for the lesson. Here's another trick. Like I said, this was not designed to be a distance learning curriculum. So if you were in class, we would discuss this and I would help you make observations. But one trick is that when you start a lesson, scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says summary, and that will give you a good indication about what we will be looking at in the lesson. Notice that there's bold terms like congruent and rigid transformation and image. So as you're doing the lesson, take a look at the summary and read through that, or at least skim through it so that you have an idea about where it's going. So the second part of this lesson, 10.2, says what's the same. And down at the bottom there are some directions. And it says to translate figure S along the line segment V in the direction shown by the arrow. And then when you do that, color that new shape in and then list what that color is. So to translate figure S, that's this figure, along the line segment V, that's this line segment V, in the direction, all you're going to do is take each point on S and move it this direction. That's the translation. So I'm going to take this point and move it to here. Then I'm going to take this point and move it to here. And then this point. Now I'm moving it over 1, 2 in this direction. So I'm going to go over 1, 2 in this direction. And then this point, I'm going to go 1, 2 and this point 1, 2, and then this point 1, 2. And what you end up with is a shape that looks like this. It goes from this point up, over, 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 and around. That's like an L. But you notice up here that there's no tools to draw in that shape. And that's because these tools that are given to you in this activity actually do the translation for you. So I'm going to undo all these points. Okay, here's what you can do. You can take this shape S and translate it along this line V using this tool right here that says Translate by Vector. So I click on that and it says select an object to translate and then the vector. So I'm going to translate object S. So I select it by clicking, and then I'm going to translate it along this line V by clicking that, and it takes this shape S and moves it to this new location. So we don't want to get confused, so we're going to click on this and we're going to change the color. First thing I have to do is actually select the arrow tool. Then we're going to click on the shape. Then we click on this menu up here and it gives us a color. I'm going to change this to green. So I've translated figure S along this vector V, and it's created a new shape and I've colored it green. Okay, now it's asking us to take and reflect figure S across the line Y. That means I'm going to take this S and reflect it across this line Y. And there's a tool for that. And that tool is right here that shows two dots and a line. So you're reflecting about a line. So I'm going to select that tool, and then I'm going to select S and the line Y. So it's taking this figure S and reflecting it across the line Y, and that's this new shape over here. And again, I'm going to select the arrow tool, I'm going to click on this new shape, and I'm going to change the color. We're going to make it purple. So I have reflected figure S across the line Y, and I've colored it purple. Alright, next one says to reflect figure S across the line M. Here's the line M. Here's the figure S. So again, I'm going to select this tool, select S. Now it's hard to see, but you really have to make sure that you've selected it and make that figure highlighted. It looks like I have. Now I'm going to select the line M, and there's the new shape. This one gets reflected over this line to here. Now with this type of graph, it's weird looking, but you could do this kind of in your head by going down 1, 2 to the line M, and then going over 1, 2. So this point gets reflected to this point, and 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can see how this figure is reflected across the line M and ends up here. Again, we're going to select the arrow tool, select this new figure, change the color, let's make it pink. Alright, the fourth direction has 2 steps, and it says translate figure S along the line segment W in the direction shown by the arrow, and then reflect this image across the line Y. So it's going to take 2 steps to get my answer. So first thing is to translate S along this line segment. So I'm going to go up, select the tool, that's the translate tool. I'm going to select S, and then I'm going to select this line W. That didn't work. Let's try it again. I'm going to select this translate, select S, and then W, and there it is. So this figure gets moved all the way over here this distance. So it doesn't matter where the vector is, it's going to take this point and move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've moved it this distance, this direction from here to here. Then I want to take this shape, the second direction says, and reflect the image across the line Y. So I'm going to choose the reflection tool, I'm going to click on this figure and select the line Y, and there's my final answer. So I want to change that color and make it orange. So all of these different shapes on this graph represent each of these transformations: a translation, a reflection, another reflection, and then 2 steps to get from here to here to here. So what I'm trying to do is get you to learn how to use these tools in this activity. Make sure that as you do this activity that you actually go through and do each of these pieces. Okay, for the next section, I'm going to let you do that on your own. It might involve you drawing some lines, it might involve you reflecting, but I'm going to have you finish that on your own using these tools that are given to you. Now, once you've finished the activities, make sure that you go through and reread the summary so that you understand what was supposed to be accomplished. Take a look at the glossary at the bottom so that you understand what a rigid transformation is, and so on. And then completing this activity should get you ready to complete the practice problems, which you'll find in Google Classroom, that will look just like this, but will give you an opportunity to answer them in Google Classroom. So, again, doing the activities in the lesson, I don't monitor that, but I'll know whether you've done it based on how well you do in the practice part. So good luck.